It's time for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene with Scott Puryear. Now here's your host, Scott Puryear.
Welcome to episode 6 of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. I am Scott Puryear. Happy to have you alongside with us. We're going to chat with the legendary voice of the Bears, Art Hains, here in just a few minutes. But as always, we start our podcast with our recap and look ahead to the sports week and weekend here in the Ozarks and beyond. We kick it off with Kansas City Chiefs talk. The Chiefs had a bye this past weekend, chance to enjoy some time off and maybe go to a concert if your famous girlfriend had one overseas over the weekend. So nice, relaxing and refreshing weekend, I'm sure, for the Chiefs as they get back to business this week. They lead the AFC overall with a 7-2 record. And really a big weekend for them without even playing, because three key teams that are chasing them for that overall top seed and home field advantage in the playoffs all lost home games. That would be the Ravens, the Bengals, and the Bills. And so a nice weekend for the Chiefs in that regard. Big one coming up on Monday night, Chiefs and the Eagles, Super Bowl rematch, a possible preview of what's to come. It's Jalen Hurts and company with the high-powered Eagles, and they are 8-1 on the year. Coming into Arrowhead, it should be a dandy. So make your plans now. By the way, if you were intending on going up there and buying tickets last minute, last I checked, it was $350 a piece for tickets in the nosebleed section. So a very high-priced ticket for the Chiefs and the Eagles coming up on Monday night in Kansas City. Congrats to the Evangel Valor. We had Coach Chuck Hepla on our last episode, and, of course, the Valor had a big game at Nixa Eagle Stadium over the weekend. They rallied from 21 points down to beat Bethel 41-38 in overtime, finish off an 11-0 regular season, and a very memorable season for Chuck Hepla and those Valor this season, as it is their first year in the KCAC Conference, Kansas Collegiate Athletic Conference, and they win the championship as the first season as a member, go unbeaten. They're ranked nationally number 9. They will find out this weekend who their NAIA playoff opponent will be. They'll be going on the road for that first round, so good luck to the Valor with that. Missouri State football rose up with a very impressive 35-16 win over nationally ranked Northern Iowa. It was the Bears' home finale on Saturday. Coach Ryan Beard's squad is now 4-6 overall, 3-4 in the Valley, and finish the season with a very tall task this Saturday. They are at nationally top-ranked and traditional powerhouse South Dakota State. Jackrabbits are 10-0 and already have clinched the Missouri Valley Conference title. So a very tough test ahead for the Bears, but a chance, again, to build momentum with a good showing. An upset would be monumental, but a good showing takes them into the off-season and the recruiting season with a very good vibe. So good luck to Coach Beard and the Bears. Other notes, we have Missouri State men's soccer. They're in the NCAA tournament again. They are an at-large bid. They have an 11-3-3 record overall. They have Nebraska-Omaha coming in for the tournament game, first round on Thursday night. Big win for Bears basketball over visiting Oral Roberts on Monday night. We'll talk more with Art about that. Catholic and Rogersville boys soccer teams are headed to the Final Four this weekend. Good luck to them. And we have 11 area high school football teams still alive with state playoff games coming up this weekend. Those include Nixa at Rockhurst, Jeff City Helias at Republic, and Jefferson City at McDonald County. Yes, you heard it right. My alma mater, the McDonald County Mighty Mustangs, are in the state playoffs for the first time. Kudos to those guys, those coaches, those kids, our school. Been a long time coming. In my almost 40-year career now in local media, I've been blessed to work with and be influenced by some of the greats in the business. I go back to the late Marty Edelman at my time at the News Leader, to TV folks like Ned Reynolds, Dan Lucy, Tom Mast, and others. And if there is a Mount Rushmore of Springfield media, my guest today is most certainly on it. No one has done their job with more professionalism than radio broadcasting than the legendary Art Hains. Simply added to that legend with his amazing, inspiring comeback story in his battle back from the West Nile virus, and is back behind the mic again where he belongs, doing the Kansas City Chiefs studio show, as well as his longtime duties as the voice of the Bears. It's my pleasure to welcome in Mr. Art Hains. Good morning, Arthur.
Morning, Scott. Good to be on with you.
Absolutely. Appreciate your time and late night last night with the Bears basketball game.
No, not too late. We were back at my facility before 10 o'clock, so that was not too late a night. And it was a good night for the Bears as they bounced back from the loss at West Virginia with a 15-point win over ORU.
Absolutely. I caught that on the telecast of it, or whatever we call those things, on ESPN Plus, and very good showing. I thought they had a good showing in West Virginia. Just a very tough place to play, and come out of there with a win. But again, the best news is you're back calling Bears games at home this year. Kind of tell us about where you are in the recovery process ongoing now.
Well, we're doing fine. Weren't supposed to be here at all, and to be back in Springfield, and have use obviously of my voice and my fingers and arms to a good extent. Still don't have use of my legs, anything below the waist, and we're still working on that in physical therapy 5 days a week. That might come back. We're still hopeful of that, but in the meantime, I'm in a cool powerized wheelchair, can get me where I need to go.
Absolutely. And Art Hains now in mid-November versus the version that came back to the football booth in September. Is there a difference?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I'm getting a little bit more strength in my voice, my air behind it. Still maybe not quite as strong on the touchdown calls as I was before, but I think that's getting better. And basketball, I found to be a little easier last night because it's right there in front of me. Football, from the distance that I was, a little more difficult on the recognition of the pass receivers and things like that. But the basketball, I think, is going to go pretty well.
Very good. Well, obviously, everybody's certainly happy to have you back on the airwaves, and let's talk about your Chiefs. Had the weekend off. I assume Travis Kelce's back in the States now after his little overseas trip, and much ado about nothing probably in a bye week. Would you view it that way as well?
Oh, I would. I would expect him to go to Argentina. Taylor's been to 4 of his games, I think, so this is the only time he'd have a chance to go support her on the bye week, so he did, and I expected that, and now back to business as usual.
Do you like this Chiefs edition better, the same, or maybe a little less than the squads they've sent to the playoffs the last 2 or 3 years? Kind of break that down for us a little bit.
Well, it's interesting because the offense has carried them through this whole Patrick Mahomes era, and now this year it's the defense. And, defense is there night in and night out. They have proved that every game this year. The defense has just been rock solid. The offense, though, has not been explosive. They got 41 points against the Chicago Bears, but, that's the Bears. But they're just they're getting a lot of yards, but not a lot of points, settling for field goals, not touchdowns. And I think it's still there as long as you have Mahomes. But they have lost some key wide receivers to free agency, and the thought always has been, well, as long as you got number 15, you're okay. Well, maybe not. These guys are just not getting open on a regular basis, and teams have been able to kind of take Kelce away or minimize the damage that he does, and they've had a lot of drop passes from the other guys. I think Rashee Rice has got a chance to emerge as a wide receiver 1. He hasn't really fully yet, but Mahomes hasn't gotten worse. It's just that his targets have not been as dependable.
Yeah, and I know it works both ways because, it's kind of a lot of cooks in the kitchen in that receiving room on the field for the Chiefs, which makes it hard, I'm sure, for opponents to prepare. But, we're down to the last 7 or 8 weeks of the regular season now. Do you think they kind of need to figure out who needs to be out there for the majority of snaps at this point?
Yeah, I think so. I'm about to label Sky Moore as a bust at this point, and Kadarius Toney, they've got nothing out of him this year. So I really had hoped they would pick up DeAndre Hopkins at the trade deadline, but they didn't. So obviously they were looking at salary cap issues and other things. I think that really would have put them maybe back to where they had been in the past, but they're going to rely on defense for now, and Mahomes to figure something out.
Is this the best defense you've seen they've had since in the last 4 or 5 years?
I think the best since the Schottenheimer years. I really do. And the defense wasn't very good in the early Mahomes era, but now they've got a good pass rush with Chris Jones back. The linebackers, even with Nick Bolton out, Drew Tranquill came from the Chargers, and he's filled in seamlessly there. And the secondary is what's really the strength of the defense. I mean, between Jarius Sneed and the others that they've got back there, they're very strong against the pass.
Kind of got a jumbled bottleneck mess there in the AFC after the Chiefs. They're sitting there at 7-2, and then you look at the teams that you expect to be chasing, and they're there, but they're joined by a lot of teams that maybe you didn't think would be there. A big day big weekend for the Chiefs in not playing, with losses by the Bills and the Bengals and the Ravens all at home. Is there anybody in that you fully expect down the stretch here to kind of emerge and maybe that is a more dangerous opponent for the Chiefs down at the end than the others?
Well, I mean, I still think the Dolphins may be. I mean, the Chiefs beat them, and that was a good performance in the game in Frankfurt. But they've got a lot to commend themselves to be a contender. I was really glad to see the Bills lose last night. I think they're going to be doing good to make the playoffs. And, the Ravens, to me, I mean, their combination of offense and defense, they may be the prime contender. And then you can't rule out the Bengals, who are coming on a little bit now, despite their recent loss. They're a team that scares me. They've always played the Chiefs really tough.
Kind of thought the Jags might be back there again. They'd won 5 in a row, and they stumbled badly against the Niners. Are they still one of those that you think can make that run and maybe get to an AFC title game?
Yeah, maybe. But, I think the Niners exposed them, and the Chiefs kind of seem to have their numbers. So I'm not as concerned with them as I am with some of the others.
And surprising to me, and I'm sure maybe to you, Trevor Lawrence just has not stepped up and had that progression in his career like maybe we thought he would too.
Yeah, I agree. He was getting into the next to top tier of quarterbacks, and he may still be there, but kind of in the bottom part of that second tier is he's regressed a little bit.
Now, I couldn't make it, had a conflict, but I understand here in the last couple of weeks we had a little birthday get-together and maybe a surprise presentation, some more bling for Mr. Hains. Is that correct?
We did. That was last Monday night for my birthday, and Rick Jester and my wife and daughter kind of conspired on all of this to have the party. But then I was really surprised when they presented me with an actual Super Bowl champion ring from last year. At first, I thought this was a faux ring that, they were offering to the season ticket holders. But no, it's the real thing. And it was a combination of people reaching out to Dan Israel, the Chiefs Radio Network, and I think it went all the way to Dallas to the Hunt family, and they approved it. So it's the real thing, but some of my friends had to pay for the jewelry that's in it, and they got together and did so, and I was shocked. I mean, it really was. My wife lets me have it for about 3 or 4 hours a day, and then she takes it home. But it's huge, it's gaudy, and I was just humbled and so surprised to get that.
Now, and obviously well deserved, and the folks at the rehab center there, are there visiting hours for the ring? I mean,
everybody here seemed to know about it in advance, and they did a great job of keeping it a secret. And then afterwards, they said, "Oh, here you got a ring. I want to see it." So, people have been coming in when the ring is usually visiting hours are in the afternoon, and people have been coming by to see it.
That's awesome. And of course, it'll stay locked up, right? Except for your own personal visiting hours, where your wife lets you have it.
Yes, indeed, it will.
Yeah. Let's switch gears and talk some Bears basketball. We kind of touched on it earlier, but the very impressive win last night against Oral Roberts. It's a 30-win Oral Roberts team, but not. It's one that's kind of reloading right now. Probably not the strength they were last year, but Bears look good, didn't they?
They did. Yeah, Oral Roberts got a new coach, and their best player transferred to Texas. But they've still got some good players. It's really run and gun, holler and faller, and the Bears were happy to play at that tempo. I thought the Bears maybe shot too many threes, but ORU that's their game. They average making about 10 threes a game, and last night they were 5 for 25. So at some point the Bears were encouraging them to shoot threes because they weren't going in. Lost Chance Moore, the leading scorer on the team on the first game, to an ankle sprain about 5 minutes into last night's game. Dana said they're thinking it's minor and hoping to be able to play this weekend in the Virgin Islands, but other people stepped up. I mean, Alston Mason had 29 points, a career high, and he was really good last night.
Preseason poll had the Bears pick 6 in the Valley. Is this maybe a Bears team that's under the radar a little bit? Obviously,
I think so. Better not be 6. I mean, Mike Keltner helped me with my preseason poll, and we picked them 2nd. I mean, I really think this is a talented team, and last night was a good example. I mean, 69 points in a high-tempo game, that's pretty good. They held West Virginia to 68. Last year, they only allowed 63 points a game. But, more possessions, more points both ways. I think they're going to try to play fast, and they're about 8 or 9 deep. So I look for this to be an entertaining team.
Again, very early, but could this be Dana's most talented team to date?
I think so. I mean, his second year was touted as being a very talented team, and as it was, but they ended up not living up to that expectation. Hopefully this year's team will, and by that team, they need to coalesce and be a good team, and last night was a good step forward.
Absolutely. Switching gears again to Bears football. Big win for them on Saturday over a ranked Northern Iowa team over a Plaster. You see that as a statement win for Ryan Beard and his staff that this program's on the rise?
Absolutely. I mean, the first 3 wins were against lesser opponents, but now this is against a team that the Bears have rarely beaten in their football history, and it's always great to beat Northern Iowa in football. 2 of their broadcasters came in to the booth after we were off the air and said, well, thanks for that, I'll phrase it, butt kicking. And, that may have kept them out of the playoffs. I texted Ryan Beard after the game that the first 40 meetings with Northern Iowa, the Bears were 5-35. And since the Petrino Beard family came to town, 3-1 Missouri State. So not that they've got things completely turned around against Northern Iowa, but recent history would indicate maybe they have. And that was a statement win. They put it all together. It wasn't even close. I mean, 35-9, and then you and I got a garbage time touchdown.
I know you and I have talked, and you're obviously a fan of Ryan Beard. I am too. I just love his enthusiasm and his accountability. That's something that seems to be less and less prevalent in today's college coaching game. But what do you really like about Ryan Beard, and why do you think he's the guy for this program for years to come?
Well, I mean, his confidence, and he's just resolute in his belief in what they're doing is going to take him in the right direction. He does take accountability for the negatives, but he's a defensive guy. He was a defensive coordinator for the first 3 years here. The first season, the first Petrino playoff year, the defense carried the team. So he had taken personally the weaknesses of the defense this year. And boy, they brought it against Northern Iowa at all 3 levels.
They've got a star blossoming there, don't they? In the wide receiver Raylan Sharp, 6 100-yard games, the Valley Offensive Player of the week. 300-yard games in a row. Again, we live in a world now where you kind of hope others don't recognize that and notice that out in the Power 5 world, right? Because he's poaching candidate material there, and that's the world we live in now, isn't it?
It is. It is. I mean, he's been in Power 5 once at Houston and transferred here, but you do worry about that. The portal works both ways. I mean, we got him out of the portal, and could possibly lose him. But that's where relationships come in, and the thought that if he continues to excel at this level, the big guys will find you no matter where you are.
Big test, obviously, for the Bears in the finale, going to South Dakota State, the number one team in the country. In your mind, what is considered a good outcome? Obviously, an upset win that raised eyebrows across the nation would be the ultimate outcome. But what is a good outcome for the Bears in this one to have a feel-good vibe going into the offseason and recruiting?
Well, honestly, if they can stay within 20 points, and I mean, I'm just being honest about that. This is the best team in the country at this level. But I think the Northern Iowa win that's the momentum. It's kind of playing with house money this week. Very low expectations. That's a great team playing on its home field. The only thing is, you hope they mail it in because they're already going to be probably the number one seed in the playoffs, win or lose. But I have a feeling that on their senior day, they're going to be in a pretty good state of mind.
You think there's any chance that Bobby Petrino, who's now available again with Jimbo getting fired down there, maybe winds up back in Springfield as an OC for his son-in-law?
Well, that would bump his son out of the position.
That's true. Yeah, we don't want to do that, do we?
Don't want to do that. I mean, I'm not hearing his name mentioned for some of like Mississippi State just fired their coach this week, and I've thought about him for that. But one thing I read, they're talking about maybe bringing Dan Mullen back. He was very successful as their coach before going to Florida. He was pretty successful there, too. So that's a possibility. Arkansas, and I like Sam Pittman, but I know the Wolves are out down there. Would they bring Petrino back? That's the last time they really won successful or consistently is when he was their coach. So I don't know. He's going to land somewhere, but I don't think it'll be back here. And
that's a great point on Arkansas. I was down there Saturday, and it was just awful. Auburn, which is really kind of average to above average at best, came in and just owned them. And I think you're right. I think there's going to be something that has to be done. And that Mizzou game on Black Friday is really kind of the one that, if they're terrible in that one, don't you think that may be the death knell for Mr. Pittman?
Yeah, it might be. I mean, he started out well in his career at Arkansas, but you got a short leash when you're a Razorbacks coach in football or basketball, but especially football. And I know the fan base down there is very upset. So, they may be getting ready to do something.
Well, Art, we're going to wrap it up talking a little Bears baseball and Keith Gutton, the announcement becoming official here in the last couple weeks that this will be the 42nd and final season as head coach. A friend of ours and a guy that we both admire a lot. Obviously, hoping he has a special send-off next spring, correct?
Yeah, absolutely so. Going out on his own terms, as he should deserve to. Second winningest coach active in Division I baseball and 12th winningest all-time in Division I baseball. I think he's got a chance to move into the top 10 this season. It just leaves an unbelievable legacy with 12 NCAA tournament appearances, 3 regional championships, 1 College World Series, and 21 players that have gone to Major League Baseball. Just done a tremendous job here, and I know he really doesn't have any hobbies, and he said he's going to have to get some to kind of kill his time here in retirement. But he well deserves it, and hope he goes off on a good note.
Well, Art, I certainly appreciate your time and wish you continued speedy recovery. And again, I always love to talk sports with a legend.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
You bet. Time for Scott's Thoughts. I finish up each podcast with just some random musings and ramblings about the world of sports in our area. Start off by talking about Cardinals baseball. They've got some big names out there in free agency on the pitcher list. Blake Snell, Aaron Nola among those. Time for the Cardinals to go spend some of that money and get at least one of them, if not both, or the fan discontent will rear its ugly head early instead of waiting till midseason this time around next summer. You can't address your team's primary need year after year and expect to still see 40,000 for home games at Busch Stadium. So Cardinals, spend some money, get some pitching, be competitive again. Mizzou's 36 win over ranked Tennessee on Saturday was the kind of statement win Eli Drinkowitz and the Tigers needed. I thought weeks ago that Mizzou would do Mizzou things, maybe take a step backward at some point in October, November after a strong start against really a weak non-conference schedule, but that hasn't happened this year, and they've kept it right on rolling. Big win for them over the Volunteers. I thought maybe they might lose some of these big-time verbal commits they have before signing day. That is not going to happen. The Tigers are solid in all three areas of play, and they have the program right now at its peak since the Gary Pinkel days. Hats off to the Tigers. Meanwhile, I sat through most of that dreadful 48-10 Arkansas home loss to Auburn on Saturday down in Fayetteville. Sam Pittman's a great guy. He's like a big old grandpa, a teddy bear to Arkansas and its fans, very lovable. But I do expect a head coaching change to come after the season. Maybe not a firing, but maybe a nudge into retirement for Pittman and put him in a role as a fundraiser or an ambassador for Razorback Athletics, a guy that would be well in both roles, or do well in both roles there because, again, he's very likable. But this football isn't working. The offense is out of sync again after 1 week of a flare-up down in Florida. They look like a Power 5 football team again. Regressed last week against a very average Auburn team on their home field. Got to switch it up and see what the Hogs can do differently. Mississippi State and Texas A&M already have done that before the season's over. I think Pittman is likely next. Got a home test with Florida International. Won't be much of a test this week, but then finish up on Black Friday with Mizzou. That is really Sam Pittman's last chance to save face and maybe keep his job with an upset win over the surging Tigers. That's going to do it for this week's edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. Be sure to play the Guess the Chiefs score on the Around the Ozarks and Midwest Family Radio websites. Your chance to win Chiefs tickets, autographed memorabilia, prizes, and more. All you got to do is guess the score on a Chiefs game for this week. And, again, it'll be a big one with the Eagles coming in for Monday Night Football. And you can now rate this podcast after listening, so we encourage you to take a second, maybe give us a few stars if you like what you're hearing each week on Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. Thanks for listening.